नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we're reading text 48, is it? 40. Yeah. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitashaya Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Ihasyati Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitashaya Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Vihasyati Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitashaya Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Vihasyati. It's Prabhu's. Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha
Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma
Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitashaya Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Vihasyati. Mataji's. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitashaya Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Vihasyati. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahishtaha Niveshya Vaikuntamimam Nihasati. Word to word. Saha, he, Vai, certainly, Mahabhagavataha, the topmost devotee, Mahatma, expanded intelligence, Mahanubhavaha, expanded in influence, Mahatam, of the great souls, Mahishtaha, the greatest, Pravriddha, well matured, Bhaktya, by devotional service, he, certainly, Anubhavita, being situated in the Anubhav stage of ecstasy, Ashaya, in the mind, Niveshya, entering, Vaikuntham, in the spiritual sky, Imam, this material world, Vihasyati, will quit. Translation by His Loving Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat after me. The topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence and will be the greatest of the great soul. Due to mature devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Papered by Srila Prabhupada, please hear. There are 3 stages of transcendental development in devotional service, which are technically called Sthayi Bhava, Anubhava, and Mahabhava. Continual perfect love of Godhead is called Sthayi Bhava, and when it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship, it is called Anubhava. But the stage of Mahabhava is visible amongst the personal pleasure potential energies of the Lord. It is understood that the grandson of Diti, namely Prahlad Maharaj, would constantly meditate on the Lord and reiterate his activities. Because he would constantly remain in meditation, he would easily transfer himself to the spiritual world after quitting his material body. Such meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. This is especially recommended in this age of Kali. Jai Shri Bhaktivedanta Prabhu's ki. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Shri Gurma Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patita Nama Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhutair mahadbhir yaima puro vibhu nirmaya shete yadamushu purusha bhunte gunansho dashasho dashatmaka solang krisishta bhagavan vachamsi me Shri Krishna sharanam sharanagatam Katha amritam satata pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panthanam Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasannam. Translation of this verse again. The topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence and will be greatest of the great souls. Due to mature devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Hare Krishna. So, yesterday we were discussing how Prahlad Maharaj, is the greatest of all devotees, at least outside Vrindavan. And Prabhu had asked a very nice question that in Srimad Bhagavatam in 12th canto it is stated, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, that Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of all. And in this particular verse we see again Bhagavatam saying that the topmost devotee of the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj, will expand intelligence and have expanded influence and will be the greatest of the great souls. So how can we reconcile these apparently two contradictory statements? So one thing we have to understand is that Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very deep. We cannot just understand Srimad Bhagavatam by our own mundane intelligence. Sridhar Swami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, is the greatest commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when Sridhar Swami is writing his commentary, he begins by saying that where am I, a person of puny intelligence, and where is Srimad Bhagavatam, so deep in its wisdom? However, as the Lord carried Mount Mandara when he incarnated as Kurma, the tortoise, similarly I pray that Srimad Bhagavatam lift my intelligence so that I can make something worthwhile out of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, dadame buddhi yogam tam. It is Krishna who gives us intelligence. And that intelligence he gives when bhajatam priti purvakam, when we, with love and devotion, worship him. And this process, as yesterday we were mentioning, is apratihata, continuous. Therefore Krishna says, satatam. Tesham satata yuktanam. The devotee is engaged continuously without any breakage. Bhajatam priti purvakam. He is saturated with love. Priti purvakam. And here in this paper, Prabhupada very nicely states that this stage is Mahabhava, is visible amongst the personal pleasure potential energies of the Lord. And Prahlad Maharaj exhibited this, even amongst his demoniac friends. So how we can understand this point is that Lord Shiva certainly is the greatest of great personalities. Now before going there, let's look at Srimad Bhagavatam statement in the first verse where Vyasadeva writes that Krishna is Swarat. Swarat means independent, fully independent. Janmadhyasya yato anvayat itaratascha chartheshu avignaha swarat. So he says Krishna is fully cognizant, he knows everything, and he is fully independent, Swarat. Then in the 9th canto, there is a contradiction. When Durvasa Muni causes the offense to Amrish Maharaj, and Durvasa Muni comes to Lord Vishnu to beg for forgiveness, then Lord Vishnu says, I cannot actually forgive you. Why? Because Aham Bhakta Paradhino. I am not independent. I am dependent on the will of my devotee. He aswatantra. Swatantra means independent, and aswatantra means not independent. Ivadvija. Why is that? He says, Sadhu virgrasta hridayo bhaktair bhakta janapriya. Because the sadhus, they, through their love, had bound me in their heart. So Krishna is bound in the hearts of sadhus. And what to speak of the sadhus, even bhaktair bhakta janapriya, even the devotees of those devotees are very dear to me. So we see this one contradiction. And similarly, we see that it is mentioned that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, therefore we should worship Him. But we see apparent contradiction that Govinda Nandani, Govinda Mohini, Govinda Sarvasya, Radha Kanta Shiromani. That although Krishna is the Supreme, however, the most pleasure that Krishna is supposed to have, in fact, Radharani has. Govinda Nandani. She gets more pleasure, and that's why we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes as Radharani in mood of Krishna. In Govinda Mohini. And not only that, but Radharani bewilders even Krishna through her undeviated love. Once I was hearing this pastime from Bhagavati Mataji, that once Krishna, the celebrated prankster, assumed the form of a tattooist, and as an old man, and he went to the house of Srimati Radharani to, they sell like whatever tattoo you want, I can engrave that. So Radharani invited him. And then Krishna asked, so tell me what I should write. So Radharani started saying, write Govindaya Namaha, write Keshavaya, write Madhusudanaya, all different names of Krishna. And she was ecstatically saying it, and tears were flowing from my eyes as she was chanting Krishna's name. And Krishna could not fathom how much pleasure she is just feeling in chanting my name. And Krishna became so overwhelmed that he could not maintain his form as the old man. He just manifested himself again. And yesterday we were mentioning actually that Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, and everyone in Brajavasi could see Krishna for 7 days. And Krishna could see everyone for 7 days. But Krishna actually was struggling to see Radharani. Why? Because the Brajavasis, the elderly men and women, had hidden Radharani. Why? Because they thought if Krishna sees Radharani, then he will lose his composure and he'll put his finger down and Govardhan will just fall and everyone will crush. So, although for preaching purposes, we say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas, Krishna is the supreme most worshipable. But devotees know that actually it is Radharani who is the super most worshipable, because she has Krishna under her control. And Prabhupada actually in one conversation says, actually we worship Krishna to please Srimati Radharani. We actually otherwise are not interested in worship of Krishna that much, because Krishna is dear to Radharani, that's why we worship Krishna. But of course, general population out there cannot understand it. So similarly, for general population, Lord Shiva is the greatest. Why? Because he is Ashitosha. He can give whatever benediction very quickly people want. So generally, people who are materially inclined, they worship Lord Shiva. However, Lord Shiva is such a great personality, despite being, he's not even a Jiva Tattva. It's between Jiva and Ishvara Tattva. Despite his greatness, Lord Shiva worships Krishna. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. And so that's the official statement of Bhagavatam. But when we go deeper into Bhagavatam, we see that actually Prahlad Maharaj is the topmost. And from the statements of Bhagavatam, we can ascertain it. Prahlad Maharaj never deviates. But we see the Lord actually even bewilders Lord Shiva when he comes in Mohini Murti. Momentarily, Lord Shiva runs after the attractive form of the Lord. But Prahlad Maharaj, we see that he is constantly vigilant and aware. When Lord Nrsimhadev asks Prahlad Maharaj to ask for benediction, and Prahlad Maharaj says that as it is, I am born in the demoniac family. I am naturally inclined for materialistic activities. And then you give me an open check, ask anything you want. Generally, if, let's say Krishna comes and says to us, anything you want, you ask. What will be in the top of our list, But Prahlad Maharaj is saying that for me, I don't want anything at all. I only know one thing, that I am your servant and you are my master. Apart from this, there is no other relationship between us that there is. And constantly, Prahlad Maharaj, if you study prayers of Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto of the 9th chapter, the prayers that Prahlad Maharaj offers is the epitome of humility. He basically puts himself down again and again. He starts off by praying to the Lord. Brahmadaya suragana munayota siddha satvaikatana gatayo vachasam pravahai. That Brahma and all the other demigods, they are singing your glories, offering prayers to you. Vachasam pravahai. And it flows so nicely when the demigods pray to Lord Krishna. But they are not able to please you, even though they are very qualified and they are well situated. However, Prahlad Maharaj says, I am not qualified at all. I am born in a demoniac family. Jataha, Sura. I am Asura. And I am from the lower, most, condemned race I am coming from. So how can I pray for you? So does that mean that I won't pray? Prahlad Maharaj then in the 6th verse of his prayer says that despite my unqualified disposition and my lineage, I will still rise above this depressive mode and I will still pray and offer you prayers. So sometimes, some service is given to us, the devotees, they say, oh, Anna, I am not qualified. And they try to avoid that service. So we should take the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. No, yeah, you are qualified. None of us are qualified. I am not qualified to sit here. But as a service, yes, despite my disqualification, I will still do it as a service. And that pleases Srila Prabhupada, that pleases Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers are most important prayers, you can say, in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, from which chapter Prabhupada quoted the most? Bhagavad Gita? Anyone else? In Bhagavad Gita, which chapter Prabhupada quoted the most? Gave most classes. Maybe he quoted most from chapter 9. But most classes, if you look at Prabhupada's lectures in Bhagavad Gita, is from the second chapter. We are not the body, we are the soul. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, which pastimes Prabhupada quoted the most? Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. Because Prahlad Maharaj's teaching is the most pure. And when we look at Srimad Bhagavatam, Shruti Phala, Lord Narasimhadev says to Prahlad Maharaj, anyone who listens and sings to your character and my glories, they will surely nullify the attachment of this material world. And especially for both brahmacharis and grahasthas alike, the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj are most important. Because in Srimad Bhagavatam alone, Prahlad Maharaj is a personality who does never slip. Everyone else, at some point or the other, slips, either grossly or subtly. There may be few exceptions, like Amrish Maharaj, we see. But even Amrish Maharaj, in other Puranas, it is stated that his conception of devotional service is ekaki, meaning he is just worshipping him and it's Krishna. But Amrish Maharaj has, amongst many wives, a wife who is not only worshipping Krishna, but she's opening her temple that Amrish Maharaj had built for her to all other devotees. So one day Amrish Maharaj had a dream and Lord Narayana appeared in that dream, and Lord Narayana said to Amrish Maharaj, you are a nice devotee, but your wife is a better devotee. And he wondered why. So he went and saw. She was inviting all living entities, like Saturday feast, Sunday feast we have in ISKCON. So it was open, no closed door policy. Everyone was inviting, nice kirtan was going on, nice preaching was going on. So Prahlad Maharaj, just preaching is like that. Now yesterday we were looking at Tadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. Prahlad Maharaj is fully absorbed in chanting the glories of the Lord, and Virya Gayana, Prabhupada translates as chanting and distributing. So Prahlad Maharaj is doing both. And he is converting the most unqualified persons, his demoniac friends, into first class Vaishnavas. Prabhupada did that, went to the worst place, and then out of the worst place, in the worst suburban area, and converted the druggies, the hippies, into first class Vaishnavas. And Prahlad Maharaj actually says very nicely and very humbly in Srimad Bhagavatam. And these points, yesterday I think we were mentioning that one has to, I think Kamsari Prabhu asked the question, how we can avoid the illusory energy of the Lord or something like that. And Prabhupada said, we have to always keep busy. Prabhupada said, I don't have time for Maya because I'm always busy in Krishna consciousness. So the devotee is never afraid. But Prabhupada said that the devotee has to be afraid. He has to be afraid of Krishna's Maya, illusory energy. And sometimes he would say to his Western disciples that you people are too complacent. You are taking illusory energy of the Lord very lightly. So Prahlad Maharaj in his prayers to Narasimhadev says Naham bhibhem ajitate bhayanakasya jivvarka netra bhrukatira basogradam strad. Naham bhibhem. I'm not afraid, O my Lord, of your ferocious form. Ati bhayanakasya. Bhayanak means is ghastly. The form of Narasimhadev when he's roaring. It's very, very ghastly. He especially, descends to manifest this ghastly form. And in Puranas it is stated, and actually Prahlad Maharaj also prays in the previous verses, Vikriditam Bhagavato Ruchiravatare. Vikriditam is very nicely translated as the manifested pastime for krida. Krida means sporting. Yavad balas krida sakta. When children, they like sporting. They always playing around. Even when Bhagavatam class is going on, Kirtan is going on, outside in the car park, I see cricket bat is there and they are playing off. That's krida. So the Lord comes for that purpose, for sporting purpose. This was his sporting pastime. And we say, in the Puranas it is mentioned, Bhakti Purushottam Swami mentions this pastime, that goddess of fortune Lakshmi Devi, she was massaging the Lord's feet. And she said, oh, my Lord's feet are so soft and tender. With these soft and tender feet and limbs, how will he fight and kill asuras? And not only she thought, but she mentioned, my Lord, your feet are so tender and soft. In Sanskrit it is said, mridupade. Now when Krishna goes out to graze calves and cows in Vrindavan, the gopis' heart is pained by seeing this. They are sharp pebbles, which prick Krishna's soft, tender feet. So they are pained. So Lakshmi Devi says, my Lord is so soft. How will you kill these demons who are very ferocious, ghastly and harsh? So Lord Vishnu smiled and he made a mental note. Okay, I'll show you how. So the Lord, just by desire, everything happens. So the Lord desired to show goddess of fortune Lakshmi Devi how soft he is. So immediately what transpired is the Sanat Kumaras came to the gates of Vaikuntha, and the Jai and Vijay, the two bodyguards, they stopped them, and we know the conversation that ensued, and then they cursed them, and then the Lord came and he pacified the situation. So this is the first incarnation of the Lord after this incident to demonstrate this sporting activity with Lakshmi Devi. Just for the purpose of Lakshmi Devi, the Lord, many reasons for Lord's incarnation, of course, but in this specific one for Lakshmi Devi. So it is said when Hiranyakashipu was killed, his intestine was ripped apart by the sharp nails of Lord Narasimhadev. Then at that time, Lord Narasimhadev's anger wasn't subsiding. He was very angry. He's the angry Lord. At the same time, he is the most gentle. So we call Krishna Bhagavan Leela Purushottama. Wonderful pastimes, sweet pastimes. We call Lord Ramachandra Maryada Purushottam. The best human example, he says. We call Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prema Purushottam. He freely gives the love of Godhead. And we call Lord Narasimhadev Vatsalya Purushottam. He's very, very protective and dear to his devotees. Protective. Gives protection to the devotees. So Prahlad Maharaj there says, Naham bibhem ajitate ti bhayanakasya. That your form is very ghastly. So when Hiranyakashipu is killed, then Lord Brahma is thinking, how can the Lord's anger be pacified? So before requesting Prahlad Maharaj, this is not in Bhagavatam, but mentioned in other Puranas, he asks Lakshmi Devi to come. Your husband is angry. Please pacify him. So when the husband is angry, usually when the wife comes, then the husband becomes silent. So he asked Lakshmi Devi, and Lakshmi Devi said, yeah, why not? My husband. If I don't pacify him, who will? She came along, And as soon as she came in the palace, and she saw Narasimhadev sitting in the asana of Hiranyakashipu, and he is just so ferocious, Prahlad Maharaj describes Jivvarka netra bhrukutira basogra damstrat. His jivva, long tongue, netra bhrukuti, his rabasogadam, his frowning eyebrows, his sharp, ferocious teeth, and on top of that, antra saja shatajakeshara shanku karnan, the intestine of Hiranyakashipu put around him as a garlands. And then his roaring sound, nirhad bhid digibhad, the elephants, they flee in all directions, hearing the roar of Lord Narasimhadev. So when Lakshmi Devi saw this form of the Lord, immediately she became stunned. And then when the Lord saw Lakshmi Devi there, then he remembered, oh my Lord, your lotus feet are so soft and tender. How will you kill asuras? And immediately, like eye-to-eye contact was there, and the Lord roared very loudly, looking at Lakshmi Devi. And it is mentioned the goddess of fortune just fainted there and there, just. And then Brahmaji took some water out from the Kamandala and sprinkled, and then she woke up. Then Brahmaji is thinking, who should I now? How the Lord's anger will be pacified? He will burn the whole universe through his anger. Then Brahmaji thought that he has got angry because his dearmost devotee Prahlad Maharaj was put under such harsh situation, tried to be killed by his own father. And if Prahlad Maharaj approaches, then the Lord's anger may be pacified. So he sends Prahlad Maharaj. And then Prahlad Maharaj starts offering prayers and expresses his disqualification. And in this particular verse, he says, I'm not afraid of your ghastly form, my Lord. But trastosmyaham kripana vatsala dussaho grad samsara chakra kadanam grasatam pranitaham. However, I am afraid of your illusory energy, which continues the living entities' journey in this samsara chakra, cycle of birth, death, old age and disease. And grasatam pranitaha. Grasatam means one is crushed. In Hindi it is said the grinding mortar. When in ancient days there used to be this stone, round stone, and then on top of that another round stone. It's called chakki, and there is a stick which goes in there, and there is a hole in the middle. So one takes the grains, puts in there, and then goes round and round like that, and the grains they crush. So material life is described by Prahlad Maharaj like that. Grasatam, we are just like grains, and we are being crushed by the Lord's illusory energy again and again. So trastaha, we should be frightened of this. Prahlad Maharaj says, I am frightened of this. Trastaha aham. My Lord, you are a Kripana Vatsala. Kripana Vatsala very nicely Prabhupada translates, who is so kind to the fallen souls who have no spiritual knowledge. We are like that. We are Kripana. But Lord is Kripana Vatsala. And samsara chakra kadanam grasatam pranitaha. Baddha swakarma bhirushattamate moolam pritopavarga sharanam yavase kadanu. So Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditional life? So our prayers should be like this to the Lord. My Lord, I'm suffering, and this illusory energy of yours is too strong, and I'm very frightened of it. When will you call me to your lotus feet permanently? And Prahlad Maharaj is constantly meditating on this point. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj does not want to poke Maya Devi. He is very, very vigilant. However, we sometimes become very complacent. This complacency for a devotee can drag him down. So in this verse here we see that in the purport it is mentioned on the verse directly that Prahlad Maharaj is mature in his devotional service. In first canto we see the example that even Narad Muni Krishna rejects in his past life when he is the son of the maid servant. So he's left everything, gone to the forest, he's meditating on Krishna, he sees the form of Krishna manifest, but then Krishna disappears. And then Krishna says through Shabda Brahma, "O Narada, I regret to inform you, you will no longer see me in this lifetime." Persons whose devotional service is avipakva is not avipakva. Avipakva means fully matured. They cannot see me. Now Narad Muni is such an acknowledged person. He left everything and still Krishna is calling his devotional service avipakva. But on the other hand, Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Nrsimhadev is so attached to Prahlad Maharaj, and he is reciprocating. And here we see Kashyapa Muni mentioning that his devotional service is fully matured. Therefore, his fame and influence is spread, especially amongst the Vaishnava communities. For Vaishnava communities, the charitra of Prahlad Maharaj is ideal. Why? Because Prahlad Maharaj is in the material world, born in a Rakshasa family. However, Lord Shiva is not even a Jiva Tattva. He is, between Jiva and Ishvara Tattva. He is a Tattva of his own. So for the Jiva Tattva, the greatest is Prahlad Maharaj by his example of undeterred devotional service to Supreme Lord. And then Prahlad Maharaj goes on to pray. And in these two particular prayers, he mentions this point of how he is more fortunate than Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Goddess of Fortune, Lakshmi Devi even. Kvaham rajah prabhava ishat tamodhikesmin. These prayers are so nice, if we can, we should memorize this whole set of prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 9th chapter of 7th canto. And it may take you 1 year to do it, but it is worthwhile because these prayers will always keep us in line. Prahlad Maharaj says, Kvaham raja prabhava isha tamodhikesmin. He says, Kvaham, who am I? Rajaha prabhava, influenced by the mode of passion, and tamo adhikesmi. And this adhik means more of mode of ignorance. I'm under that influence. He's talking about us. He's actually above mode of passion because he's always on devotional service. But he's putting himself in that situation. And he says, Jata sure tarakule kwatavanu kampa. And I am born in the family of demons, family of atheists and demons. However, how merciful you are to me. Kva tavanukampa. Your anukampa, your mercy is immeasurable. One of Krishna's name is Aprameya. Aprameya means one who cannot be measured, is immeasurable. And most importantly, his mercy is immeasurable, unlimited for devotees. So it's that although I'm low, I'm born in Asura Kul, however, Tavanukampa, like your mercy is incomparable, my Lord. Na brahmano na tu bhavasya na vairamaya. He says, na brahmano. Lord Brahma even didn't get that mercy. Na tu bhavasya. Lord Shiva even did not get that mercy. Navai Ramaya, even goddess of fortune did not get that mercy. But I got that mercy from you, my Lord. What is that mercy? Yanmer pitaha sarasi padma karaha prasadat. The Lord put his lotus hand on the head of Prahlad Maharaj. But he had never put his hand, lotus hand, on the head of Lord Brahma. Have you ever heard or seen Krishna putting hand on Lord Brahma? Lord Shiva, have you ever heard? Or even goddess of fortune? No. But the Lord puts his hand on Prahlad Maharaj. That shows that the Lord is biased. Lord is not supposed to be biased. Then Prahlad Maharaj says, the reason why this is so. Naisha paravaramati bhavato nanusyaj jantor yathatma sruhidoh jagatas tathapi. He says, my Lord, your disposition is not discriminatory. Para and apara. You do not distinguish, oh, this person is good, this person is not good. Jataha yatha surhido. You are equally disposed, surhido, well-wisher of everyone. However, you are like that surataro, the desire tree of the heavenly planets. Samsevaya surataro ivate prasadad. So samsevaya. Samsevaya means the mode in which we do our devotional service. What desire we have in our heart when we are doing devotional service. Every time I come to Radha Gopinath, I remember, one incident when I was living long ago across the road here, and I was working in St. George Bank, which is like in Kogra, and I was going through some difficult times. At that time, it seemed like, oh, the whole world is collapsing. But now looking at that, it wasn't difficult at all. It was just concoction of mind. And one day I know it was raining for 2 weeks continuous, something like what we are experiencing now, but 2 weeks. And I was living in flat with few devotees, and there wasn't, there's just washing machine we had, no dryer, and 2 weeks had gone, and we were running out of clean clothes. And the work was very difficult at that time. I was working like till midnight, most days. There was some project due. And on top of that, there's some other problems were there. So one night I was driving back from work at 2 a.m. in the morning, I remember. And I just thought, how miserable is my life? I was thinking, how miserable is the life? And I shouted in my car. I said, Gopinath, the least you can do is give me a dryer. After shouting that, I was pacified for some reason. And when I came back home, guess what was there? A dryer. And the dryer wasn't a normal dryer. It was Gopinath's dryer. What had happened, I think the dryer had got old and it was making too much noise. So the head pujari at that time said, no, we must get a new dryer. So they got the new dryer and put the old dryer out in the road. And one of my flatmates, Viraj Prabhu, he helped himself with that dryer. And he got it and put it in the house. So the dryer situation was solved. And I thought, I must be a great devotee. The Lord listened to my prayer. But then a few days later, I was listening to Prabhupada's lecture. And in that lecture, Prabhupada said, and I was at this old lady carrying these heaps of wood on her head. And she tripped over and the wood fell. And she called out, Krishna! Krishna came. And she said, yes, what can I do for you, Mai? And so the old lady said, can you please put back the wood on my head? So this is what we are asking for. Krishna comes, listens to our prayers, and we ask for something which is nonsense. So then it clicked me. I asked for a dryer with all my heart. We don't know what is worth asking for. Krishna is described as Varada. Varada means he is the best of the giver of benedictions. Kulshekar Alvar says in his various prayers, Shri Vallabheti Varadeti Daya Pareti Bhaktya Priyeti Bhavaluntana Kovideti. He's Kovida, he's expert in doing everything. But we ourselves don't know what is worth asking for. We want our dryers, our this, our that, and that. Lord says, yeah, okay, you wanted that. So it is like Surataro. He's described as Surataro, the desire tree. So if you sit under a desire tree, and if you desire a dryer, guess what you'll get? You'll get a dryer. So when we are chanting, we are having these desires in our hearts. We are encouraging those desires in our heart. Yes, I know devotional service is supposed to be pure. Yeah, but I have these desires, my Lord. And with that desire we are chanting. And that Krishna's name is like Nama Chintamani, the touchstone, the gem. It's a wish-fulfilling desire. So then our limit is up to that. Because we want only up to that. So there is 5 touchstones a desire is described. One is what? Vancha kalpatarobhyasya. Desire tree, Vaishnavas. They can fulfill. But are we really desiring? Viraj Krishna Maharaj once said, I desired, my disciple, he never get married, he be a brahmachari. But what to do? My disciple has a more stronger desire than me to get married. He got married. But if with the desire we approach the Lord, then the Lord fulfills. And then the other one is Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigam kalpataror galitam phalam shukhamukadam britadrava samyutam. Srimad Bhagavatam is like a desire tree. So whatever we desire, Srimad Bhagavatam has the capacity to give. And the third one is Krishna Nam, holy names of Krishna. Nama Chintamani Krishnasya. Whatever desire we have in the heart, that will be there. And the fourth one is Krishna himself. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? That one who worships me, accordingly I reward. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stathaiva bhajamyaham. And the trees of Goloka are the fifth desire tree. It's Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Vriksha. Prabhupada says. So, the problem is what? The problem is the desires of the heart. And so, the Bija mantra of worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev is directing at this. Please repeat. Again, 5th canto of 18th chapter, verse number 8. As I said, these are the summary of Prahlad Maharaj's teaching. So what does he say? Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Narsimhaya. Namaste Jasate Jase Avir Bhava Vajranakha Vajradamstra Karmashayan Randhaya. So Prahlad Maharaj prays that Vajranakha, you have nails like thunderbolt, Vajradamstra, you have teeth like thunderbolt, and Karmashayan, Randhaya. So in our hearts, we are cultivating Karmashayan, fruitive desires. And Prahlad Maharaj says, Randhaya, how you cut the intestine of the demon Hiranyakashipu. Similarly, rip apart the desires from my heart for fruitive activities. This is the only desire of Prahlad Maharaj, that there be no material desire left within the core of my heart. And he asks Lord Narasimhadev for this benediction. So there is the service, and then there is the mode of service. Both are important. With which mood we are doing the service? Are we doing the service for name, fame? Are we doing the service for some personal gain? But if we do the service at least with a pure mode, okay, we accept, okay, I have these desires, but my Lord, I no longer wish to have these desires. At least in that mode we do our devotional service, our chanting, then the Lord will reciprocate. Over time we'll find that the purification is happening. Tamo grasa. Please drive away the ignorance. Om Swaha. Abhayam Atmani. And the Lord gives fearlessness to such surrendered souls, such devotees. Because material life means fearful existence. And the Lord is giver of fearlessness to devotees from this cycle of birth and birth. And Lord Narasimhadev is Tejase, the source of all power. And he can give us that power to resist the illusory energy of his Maya potency. So Prahlad Maharaj says, Samsevaya surataro ivate prasadat. Prasadat means the mercy or whatever benediction you give is according to the samseva. So Prahlada's samseva, we look at it, he goes through so many tribulations. Imagine your own father trying to kill you, putting you under the pit of snakes. It's a terror. It's like child abuse. Getting an elephant and getting the elephant to stamp on you, trying to burn you in the funeral pyre, throwing you from the mountain. Prahlad Maharaj underwent so much difficulties, but never actually he asked for protection of the Lord to save him from his father. The only protection he asked for is save me from your illusory energy.